Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here with another falconry video. Today's video I'm going to be talking a little bit about flying passage and hag birds and some very important definitions and understanding behind ethics and even laws regarding that. Before I do, if you haven't already, if you could please hit subscribe, I very much appreciate it. It helps me to keep this channel up and going. And with that, when we're looking at falconry, especially if you're new to it, there's some basic terms that refer to ages of a bird, of a raptor. So, you have a baby is usually referred to as an eyas. And then when that baby is standing and scrambling around, kind of starting to learn how to fly, we usually call them a brancher because they're hopping up on the branches, but then sleeping in the nest at night. And then once they leave the nest and leave the care of their parents, they have first-year coloration. They are not reliant on their parents anymore, and they do not have a mate, and they do not have a breeding territory that they claim and defend. That is a passage bird, and that bird is often migrating, and that's kind of where the term, as I understand it, is the kind of it's a passage, is passing through, rites of passage, that kind of thinking. And so passage bird is that first year bird. And so they're going through that winter, spring, and then the next summer, they're going to molt in to their adult coloration. And then they are called a hag or a haggard bird. And at that point, they're probably trying to find a mate and trying to establish a breeding territory to claim and defend. Now, a really simple example of that is if you look at a first-year red-tailed hawk, they have some pretty there's a range of coloration, but you have some pretty distinct colors, and the tail is not red. And then once after they are a year old and they become a haggard bird, they get that red tail and the more vibrant colors, and it's very easy to tell them apart. Now, this is true of most raptors. Larger raptors or raptors that are considered hawks but are descendant from eagle clans like great black hawks and common black hawks, for example, and even to a lesser degree Harris hawks will sometimes have a staggered molt. So in other words, a true eagle, it'll take 5 to 6 years before they have the full adult coloration. Like a bald eagle doesn't get its white head and neck and tail until it's 5 years old. And some of these kind of in-between birds from eagle lineages, it might be 3 years to get those adult colors. And so where we define them a hag or not, okay, there's different definitions. But basically, a first-year bird that's no longer under parental care is passage, and an adult with adult colors that probably has a mate is a hag or a haggard. So this video is not about those definitions. We just need to establish those definitions. Now, what you need to understand in falconry is typically we do not fly haggard birds. I'm going to make some exceptions, not in the United States, but I'll explain in a minute. And I want you to understand there's kind of two big reasons why. Why legally in the United States do we only fly passage birds instead of hags? We can fly babies too. But why a passage bird? Why not a haggard bird? And there's a few reasons and that are ethical and legal, but then I want to explain also the exceptions that have occurred throughout time. So for me, one of the biggest reasons is, for the non-ethical reason, is just that the bird is a blank canvas. A passage bird has been under its parental care, and all of a sudden, maybe, let's say you trap this bird, and it's like, oh, okay, now this human trapped me, and now you're feeding me off the fist. Now I'm flying to the fist. Now I'm off hunting again, and you're teaching me to hunt prey that I hadn't even thought about going after. They're comparatively easy to train and a joy to work with, and the nice thing is they have all the advantages of having been wild. They have some hunting experience. They have a lot of flight, landing, diving, pursuit experience, but they're basically so new to the game that they're a blank canvas, and you can teach them to do amazing things. The second and more ethically driven reason is the fact that a haggard bird, in theory, has a mate, and in theory has a breeding territory. And so if you are taking a haggard bird out from the wild, that would be taking away somebody's mate and taking away, in theory, an established breeding pair. Now, that being said, the odds are very highly against passage bird survival. For most raptors, there's a 70 to 80% death rate their first year. Passage birds in the wild get electrocuted, they get shot, they get hit by cars, they starve to death, they get predated on by larger raptors. There's so many things that happen to them. So there's a 70 to 80% chance of a passage bird dying. And if instead they make it to being a hag, then it's like, okay, this is an experienced bird that's been through the ropes, and so that bird is now a breeder. So for falconers, flying a passage bird, you're taking a bird that the odds are overwhelming in favor that it would die. You're getting it through its first most difficult season and training it hunting skills and exercise regiments that it wouldn't have in the wild. It's like, let's say, get a red-tailed hawk. Maybe it's just going after the lowest common denominator. I'm going to go after the smallest mice I can find, whatever little rodents are available. And you're teaching it, oh, hey, here's how you can go after rabbits. Here's how you can go after prairie dogs. Here's how you can go after ducks. And so you've built them a better prey base and a better hunting skill level by diversifying their abilities. And then you're probably setting them free the next year. So they're going back into the wild to turn into a haggard. And they are actually going to be a better provider, in theory, than they would have if they had just barely squeaked by hunting moles, voles, and gophers. And so that's kind of the thinking on that. Now, saying that, so that's kind of the two reasons, right? Sort of the training reason and the ethical reason. That being said, in some countries of the world, there is a tradition of trapping a migrating haggard bird. So this is a time of year where, let's say you have a saker falcon that has left its mate, left its breeding territory, and is just all alone going and flying south for the winter to hunt. And during that migration, maybe it would be trapped, trained to trust humans, and flown for the season, and then in the spring at migration time it was set free and released back to go back to its mate and do all that. That way of thinking has no biological impact. It's fine, right? You're not taking away somebody's mate, you're not taking away a breeding territory that's established by a haggard bird, and so really biologically it's not making any impact. But And part of the logic was a bird of that kind would be much harder to train than a passage bird, but would be far more tenacious with its hunting abilities. It would have had in the wild maybe years and years of different hunting experience. We don't do that in the United States. It's against the laws that we've drafted up. Some countries you still can, and I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, but I'm just trying to help you understand the logic behind why we there's sort of an unwritten rule in many countries that, hey, we fly passage birds, and why also legally we put those laws into effect. Because you might keep a bird for more than one season. You might trap a bird, and what if you're flying for 2 seasons, 3 seasons? Well, if it was a haggard bird, then you may have taken away somebody's mate. So that's part of the reason why. So anyways, trapping time of year, it's fall. It's the time when all these passage birds and the haggards are migrating through. And like I said, I wanted to give a lot of videos about trapping and the logic behind some of this season. And so if you're out trying to get a bird, I wish you luck with that. I hope this video was interesting for you. And as always, happy hawking.